How you doing? This is Jimmy the Bull with a very important message, yo. Would you guys cut it out for 5 minutes over here? Don't forget, listen to Heavy Muscle Radio, Monday 7, or forget about it!
10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this June 3rd, 2018 evening. And Chris, big weekend in bodybuilding, Toronto Super Show, and they call it the Super Show for a reason. There's a lot of people competing in it, and it was very competitive, and obviously an exciting end because we saw Juan Morel and Akim Williams, two guys that have been friends forever, battling it out on the pro stage. And I told those guys one of these days, I said, one of these days you guys are going to be up there battling each other. It's funny because Juan and Akim have really known each other a long time. And as a matter of fact, when I was working with Juan, Akim kind of came onto the scene, and they used to train together, and we used to do videos on Arx Muscle with them. And so it's great to see them now in the pro ranks, battling it out, not only just on the same stage, but for the win. I think that we probably saw the best Akim Williams we'd seen ever. And we saw a great Juan Morel here, and Juan narrowly edges out Akim. Talk to me a little bit about the significance of these two guys being in that top two, clearly, and guys like Cedric McMillan in that third position, and Brandeo in the fifth position, and Antoine Vallier in fourth. Talk about the significance of Juan and Akim kind of pulling away from the pack.
Well, it's significant in their placings in that, the big winner really, even though Juan is the winner, is the story of the show, I think, is Akim. Because, Akim, other than his win in Baltimore, I think it was a win, right? Or
he lost in Baltimore, but he should have won, yeah.
Or is it Tampa?
Tampa.
His Tampa win.
Yeah.
Other than, the Tampa win, Akim's problem has always been condition. We saw that in New York. He was by far, not by a little, by tons, way bigger than everyone. In fact, when Jose was sitting next to me at the show, he didn't know what he'd do with Akim. In other words, he's big enough, and in New York, arguably hard enough to break the top three. But you look closely, his conditioning versus, let's say, Juan's at that show, and you just penalize him based on the condition. You drop him to, let's say, fifth, sixth, but amazingly he got blown down. I don't even know where he was in New York. He was nowhere.
Fifth, yeah. Was he fifth? What
no
place?
way.
He was out of the top five. You're right.
Yeah, he was out of. I think he was out eighth or ninth.
You know what? The judges vote you. That basically judge you on what they see and what they know your potential is. Akim had his problem. I worked with him for many years, and I'm friends with him. His problem is that he has trouble getting in shape. His body doesn't like to let go of anything at the very end, so you have to torture this guy to death. And when he went to the Camel Crew out there in Kuwait last year, obviously they didn't get that. They thought bigger, and they brought him in huge for the New York Pro. And he wasn't terrible, but he was certainly not in contest shape. And he wound up having to settle fifth, and that lineup wasn't even that difficult. This year he was in a much more difficult lineup, and obviously he actually was in shape. I saw pictures a week or two out. He looked good, and then comes showtime, and I saw this breakfast that he ate. He posted on Instagram. There must have been 4 million calories in it. And I said, "Oh my God, that's it. He's done." Because I know you cannot overfeed Akim. And Akim had started working with Oscar Arden, and after the show, Oscar and I talked a couple times this past week, and I kind of traded some ideas with him about what to do with Akim at the end. And Oscar did a great job. Probably one of Akim's biggest problems was confidence on stage too.
Yeah.
And Oscar likes to really work the mind. And Akim was driving an hour and a half each way to train with Oscar in Brooklyn, almost 5 days a week. So I think Oscar made some good improvements to Akim's back and to his presentation, and with a couple little helpful hints. basically brought him into this show way, way, way harder and drier, and I don't think he carved. I know he probably didn't carve him up very much at all, according to what him and I were throwing back and forth. And this was a look that we needed to see from Akim. Deep, grooved, glutes. I mean, he was almost Ronnie Coleman-esque, if you ask me. I mean, he's obviously not as big as Ronnie was, but he's certainly got a ton of muscle on that body. And I know that Jose Raymond, and I know Jose listens to the show, and he won't mind me saying, he texted me. He's like, Akim got robbed. He actually said something a little more vulgar. I'll refrain from repeating it, but basically he thought that Akim deserved that win.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, I'm sure people say it could go either way, and, I think, to Juan's credit, he was in great shape in New York, and he's in, great shape here, but Akim's also in great shape, and, Akim's just got more muscle per square inch.
Let me be the devil's advocate here, all right? When they turn around, okay, who wins the back double bicep?
Actually, I'd probably give that, surprisingly, now that you said it, to Juan.
Absolutely, no doubt. Much better back.
Yeah, and he's still, like New York. He's detailed from the traps down to the hams. He's got a lot of detail, a lot of sharpness.
Who wins lat spread? Rear lat spread?
Akim.
I don't think so. I'm watching the video. I mean, I wasn't there, obviously. I think that Juan wins.
I would say on that shot, glutes and hams do count for something, I think.
I think that Juan's got glutes and hams. He doesn't have his front legs are a little narrow, but not from behind. They're not.
Yeah, I mean.
All right, so let's give me the two back poses on Juan. Okay, who wins the other poses?
Front double is lights out Akim.
Right. Who wins front lat spread? Probably Juan, because Akim hits it terrible. He's a Ronnie Coleman front lat spread guy. He thinks it's a flexing pose.
Yeah, but the legs count for something too.
True. Let's give it to Juan. So we give him three poses. All right. Who wins the side poses? I don't think anyone beats Akim on the side poses.
I wouldn't necessarily give it to Juan, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I would give the side chest for sure to Akim, and I see it. Juan. Maybe I'd give Juan the side try because it looks like Akim's hitting it like in a funky way.
Right. Ab thigh?
Well, you have to. Is it an ab or an ab and thigh?
Well, it's an ab thigh shot.
Thighs,
but does Juan hide it well on that? Does he hide his quad well on that? Or no?
I mean, you're hiding it against a guy who's got legs that like the biggest in the sport. Yeah. I mean, it's not like abs and thighs. Nothing against Nathan Diasha, right, because he's great too. But I mean, Nathan's legs are certainly better than Juan's, which is probably why he got the nod over Juan in New York. But this Akim legs are just, they look creature-esque.
And who wins?
The crab most muscular?
Most muscular, yeah.
I didn't see pictures of that, like, in detail enough to take a look at it, so you tell me. Because Juan's got a blasting most muscular, but you got to count the legs again. I don't know.
Even if you give them a tie on that pose, who wins? I mean, it's pretty close. If you add up the poses, it's almost even right there. Now it's what do you like?
I guess you would you could say it's apples and oranges. This is a powerful bodybuilder you're going against.
Who's got a better presentation?
Juan.
Right. So that could be the reason he won. He bamboozled him a little bit. With his presentation. Once again, Akim is still not that confident on stage. He's way better. I think this is probably the most confident I've seen him, and he's going to get better and better now that he's being taken seriously because his conditioning, has been restored. But I understand how the judges can give it to Juan. Juan's a little wider than Akim.
Width is something that you can't really appreciate in pictures.
Right.
Juan is definitely wide, and Akim is not narrow, but he's not as wide in the frame, like his hips to his width. Shoulders can just be tapered out and as Juan.
Akim's got the legs. I mean, the legs are just devastating. Against Juan.
For me, that's how I measure it. To some degree, as the guy came in finally in like what's considered great condition.
Yeah.
And he's got just tree trunks for legs, and he's got the hamstring on the side. Bill Juan's got a very good hamstring, but he's got like meat on meat, and he's got wacky eat glutes and hams. And you know what I always say is, you know, the overemphasis of glutes and hams. You'd think that would count for something for Akim.
Now here's the question. This is the everyone heard me, you know, give the how I rationalized Juan winning here, but here's the ultimate question, which is the irony of the whole situation. Who wins at the Olympia between these two guys?
I don't know.
Akim, because at the Olympia now, mass and legs and everything that counts. He's more impressive standing in the lineup. You know, I think, don't you think? Just with the legs, and he matches up better against some of these guys. I think that are bigger.
Yeah.
But that's always Cedric always beat guys, you know, at these other shows, and then he would go to the Olympia and get decimated by everyone there. You know, that's just, you know, Troy Alves. How about Troy Alves? Troy Alves would win every pro show he did, and then he'd go to the Olympia, he'd come in, you know, 15th.
Yeah.
So because against bigger guys, his legs, you know, his smaller legs, you know, definitely hurt him.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
So I'd like to see Akim do another show. I don't know if that's on the report yet. I'm sure Oscar will make him do another show. He should be at the Olympia. I mean, he really deserves to be there. I'd like to see him match up against some of these guys. He still needs to improve his back, though. I think that, you know, it's just almost there now. You know, it's you're finally seeing detail in the middle of his back that you didn't see before, which is
exactly.
obviously what he needed. But I think it still needs to be better. You know, how is he going to do against a Rulli Winkler and you know, guys like that? I don't think he's going to be able to beat those guys. But you know, if he could crack a top 10 at the Olympia, that would be a tremendous feather in his cap, I think.
Yeah, no, it'd be, I mean, top 10 at the Olympia is, I mean, there's so much depth because there's so much muscle on the stage, you know, and there's people, when we do the preview for the show, you know, we'll do preview the top 5,
right?
You know, and then you'll ask me, what about so-and-so? I said, oh my God, what an insult. I forgot about that guy, you know?
Right.
Because you know, the show has a lot of depth.
What's going on with Cedric McMillan? Is it once again back to old Cedric's just not consistent? You don't know what you're going to get. One day you get a world beater, the next day you get a mediocre guy, the next day you get something. He was something in between. I think his best and his worst here. Certainly not his best, certainly not his worst. But what's going on with Cedric? I mean, is he just Is he just Cedric? Is he just his own you know? His own keeper, so to speak.
Yeah, I think there's different like people have different albums. You know, they have hits and they have albums that aren't really good, and you know that this artist could put out a tremendous album at any time. It's true.
No, it is true. It is true.
The fact is that Cedric can lose these shows, and Cedric can go into an Arnold Classic and beat the lineup.
It's just it's unfathomable almost that this guy is so inconsistent. Though it drives me more crazy than it probably drives him. I don't think it even bothers him. Do you? I mean, you work with him a lot.
That's why I compared him to an artist. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure it bothers him. Yes, of course it bothers him.
Is it okay?
Well, I mean, no, people don't. You know,
why can't he find a formula that just works and do it every time? I don't get it. Why does it have to be so complicated with this guy? I mean, you work with him. It must be frustrating for you when you work with him because you never know what Cedric you're getting. You know, or what if he's gonna listen to 100% of what you say, or he's gonna listen to 75% of what you say. That's gonna be tough as a coach, you know, because as coaches we want our pupils to listen to 100% of what you say.
Well, I mean, even when, you know, the fact of the matter is, as a coach, even when someone listens 100%, you know, sometimes things just don't go perfectly well on someone's body. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, there are, you know, I mean, it's great that somebody listens 100%, but somebody can listen 100% and you still don't get, you know, the results you're looking for. So
well, then they could switch coaches. But I mean, if you're getting, if they listen and you get great results, then the next time around you don't go and do, you know, something different. You know, usually you stick to what you were doing, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense.
I don't know. To me, I feel frustrated for him because I see how much talent this guy's got, you know, and it's just, you know, in reality, he should have won this show easily, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's
no one's better than him. Juan and Akim are not better than Cedric at his best.
No, at his best, no. I mean, without a doubt, at his best, no. But you're only as good as what you just, you know, the album that you just released.
No, I agree with that. But it's kind of sad. Let's talk about Antoine Vallier, who we had on the TV show a couple weeks ago, and this guy, what a story! He became a drug addict. He was probably one of the most promising young teens out there on the circuit. 19 years old, he was winning everything. Turned pro at 21, and got into drugs and lost everything. Lost all his contracts. He had a contract when he was 19 with Animal. He was making good money. He said he didn't even know how to spend the money. He was making so much money. And here he lost his contracts. He was living on the street practically, and he relapsed 3 times. I mean, there's a guy who could have been dead, and he cleaned himself up, made the comeback, and finished his 4th year in a really tough lineup. I mean, this guy has unlimited potential. Where do you see this guy going moving forward?
I've always thought he's had tremendous potential, and it's what I thought of him today when someone texted me. They said he looked really good, because I can remember when he turned pro because he beat somebody who I was helping and who got second. Ron Partlow. I think it was like the 43rd year.
Ron came in second, yeah.
And he looked good there, and he didn't look spectacular. Didn't live up to the hype. And then I remember being down in Brazil once, Dave, and I remember seeing him like high as a kite.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I was, it bothered me.
Right.
And this guy's never gonna amount to anything. It was like this weird, judgment I had made of him, and I didn't really understand addiction. I mean, I still don't.
Right.
I mean, no one does, right? Until they're addicted themselves, probably.
Yeah, or you just.
Or
Right, something.
And so he was, looking back, obviously addicted to something, and I knew right the minute I'm sure he never remembers. He came up to me to say something, and I thought, this guy's just crazy. And to see him come back at this level with a physique where he's fulfilling, the potential that he has, is an unbelievable story. Because most people, right?
Yeah.
They would do this. What happened to the guy from Canada? The French guy. He was good when he was a teenager. People wouldn't even be able to remember the name.
Yeah.
Maybe someone like you with a photographic memory for bodybuilding would say, yeah, that's Antoine Vallier.
Rafael Brandao, to me at this show, Chris, was just not as good as he was in New York.
Well, you weren't. I disagree, because you weren't at either one.
That's true. No, he didn't look to me. He didn't look as dry and hard. I don't know. Was he fuller? I mean, it's definitely a different look than we saw in New York.
Well, I know I disagree. I think he's.
What did you think? Was he better, worse in your mind?
Than New York. I think they're comparable looks. I think you're. I mean, I'm looking at a video now with the call out. I mean, he clearly beats Antoine on every. I mean, that's my opinion. He's rounder for his structure. He beats him on the front double, front lat spread, side chest.
I'll tell you what. I think he beat Cedric.
Well, I mean, if you go, his shape is comparable in terms of V taper and everything, and his shape beats Antoine's shape.
I mean, maybe Cedric's legs are a little bigger. I don't know. Although I think Brandeau's got the better front quads than Cedric does.
I mean, it's. I thought he should have been higher.
I liked Antoine. I really did. I thought he had a lot of freak factor going there.
Yeah, no, he's very good too. He's very very good.
And also, you got to remember, Chris, it's Canada. This is where Antoine's from.
Well, I just said
hometown advantage.
I just said it. I just put the elephant in the room. I said I think Antoine got the, hometown.
I'll tell you where I didn't like where, and it might just be Brandeau's posing. I felt that his lower lats just were wrinkling up, at least on the video I saw.
Yeah.
And they were not showing a lot of lower cross striations we see. Antoine's got that really dry conditioning in the lower lats. And I think that look, it's a bamboozle. We always say it bamboozles the judges. That bamboozles. When you see that dry Christmas tree-ish, look in those
Well, I mean,
defined
the
lower lats.
flip side, we play devil's advocate. Front lat spread goes to Bendale. Front double bicep goes to Bendale. The side chest and side tricep. Abs and thighs. I would give the most muscular to Antoine, and the back shot to Antoine, including the back lat spread likely. So.
Yeah. I don't know if I know Antoine has his own little that front double. He kind of twists his waist a little bit. That's like his kind of look. I don't really like that he does that. I don't think he needs to do that. I think it kind of throws off his symmetry a little bit when he hits that pose like that. You do that. You do that in your posing routine. I don't think you should do that in the mandatory poses necessarily.
Well, I mean, I know we already talked about it, but you can go now and see the video of, great quality video of Juan and Akim.
Well, you'll see it. I did a report. I did a little Toronto Pro final report. You can see I put some video in from the Maximum Muscle report. They did some video. I included that in the wrap-up thing, so you can check that out. And it's once again, it's close. These guys are all pretty close. I thought that Juan and Akim were kind of in another league in terms of conditioning and freak factor, but I thought that Cedric is not bad, but we know what Cedric's capable of, and that's why we were disappointed in that. Antoine and Brandeo are great. They're much better than everyone else in the lineup. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No one else is close to these guys. I mean, the top 5 is really in a league of its own in this show.
I would agree with that. Top 4, top 5, top.
Yeah.
Who was 6th place?
Who knows? I haven't even seen the scorecard yet. I just know that the top placings. I've been waiting for the scorecards to be released because Chris and I record this, right after the fact. Even though it goes up Monday, we pre-record these shows, and so sometimes the scorecards haven't been released. Usually, when the scorecards are not released, it means that the scores are very close, and they're going back and they're redoing the math to make sure they didn't make any mistakes, which is smart. You don't want to put up scorecards that have errors in them or anything like that. But I think that I think that Antoine and Brandeo are going to be guys that we're going to see battling it out on stage for many years to come. I think Juan and Akim still have a lot of years behind them under the belt. I think Akim probably has got more than one, but this was a good show. It was more exciting. Usually Toronto becomes the show of the losers from New York go there to try to qualify for the Olympia.
Yeah.
I'm not saying losers in general. I'm saying just the guys who don't win New York. Saying go there and they try to get the win, and it was hardly that. I mean, it was a much more competitive show than New York was. Don't you think?
Yeah. No, I think it was. I don't know if it's much more competitive, but it was. I mean,
you don't think so? I mean, I mean, aside from Nathan Diescher in that lineup, I mean, you had better guys. You had Cedric in the lineup, even though Cedric wasn't at his best. You had Akim showing up at his best. You had Antoine in there.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is pretty damn good. Pretty good top 5 if you ask me.
Yeah. No, I mean it was the best Toronto show in years for sure.
Let's talk about Chris, the 212, which was also really kind of exciting. Now, first of all, I got to ask you, Kody Montgomery. I had him on the show obviously a couple months ago. Wanted to know what he was up to. He decided he was going to be doing classic physique. Okay, he made that announcement after Regan Grimes made that announcement when he left Kuwait. Even though Cody swears to me that it wasn't.
We have to go back. The loser is the Kuwait. Akim was the winner of the show, and Kuwait was the loser.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah.
That was the condition we were supposed to get when he went to Kuwait.
Right, but he didn't.
So Oscar, hats off to Oscar.
Yeah.
Oscar wins Guru.
Oscar Art, not Kuwait Oscar.
Oscar wins the honorary Guru of the weekend by transforming Akim from,
right,
watery to peeled.
Yeah. So, Kody Montgomery makes the announcement he's going to do classic. I thought he was crazy because I said this guy's never going to make classic, and then you somehow get Regan Grimes, who's supposed to do the open, down to classic by losing 22 pounds in 3 days. So, I'm thinking anything's possible now. Then the next thing I hear, Kody Montgomery's doing 212 now. So what happened? What happened between the announcement that he was doing classic to the day of the show?
Well, when you had him on the show, he was like a bag of bones.
Right.
He was tiny.
Wasn't trained.
No, he wasn't training. He took, like, he was just, the Kody Montgomery story is this. He was in a bad place mentally. He just had a lot of that, like everybody, right? Things don't always go in your life as planned, and he hadn't competed in a long time, and I've been talking to him for like a year,
Right.
Like, okay, I'm getting ready for a show, and you know how I am, he gave me like, it was just talk, and there's no tax on talk.
Mm-hmm.
You can just talk and talk and talk,
Right.
and it was odd coming from him, who's very anal, very OCD, that he would just like talk about like getting back into like bodybuilding and training hard, and sure enough, I'd say, send me some pictures. He'd look terrible, and then like I'd say, send me some pictures next week, and we'll keep, and like 3 weeks would go by, and I wouldn't hear from him. And then 2 weeks would go by, and he said, well, he'd talk more, and it was just odd that he was talking about it and just not really doing it. And then at some point, maybe like 12 weeks ago, not even, he was getting supposedly ready for a show, and I got wind of it, and I actually was the first bodybuilder I ever got kind of like insulted about, not working with me, because people work with me all the time, and then they say, I'm going to work with Dave Palumbo. I said, go ahead, or they say, I'm going to work with Oscar or George or Honey or whatever. I said, go ahead. And he was going to work with someone, and I actually got pissed, because I thought, I don't think anyone else could have taken your first shot into the USA. I really don't.
And won it, right?
And won it. I don't think so. Andy was sick. Andy was like violently sick with a genuine stomach flu going into that show.
Sure.
And navigating that, and being the deserving winner. He deservingly won that show. And people were like laughing at him trying to make the jump from a teenager to an open guy, and he did it, and he was successful. And then he went into the Arnold and had a big setback,
which really wasn't a setback. He really looked good at that show.
Yeah, he looked incredible. So 12 weeks ago, he comes on your show, and he's like a bag of bones, and he decides he's going to do Classic, which was an odd decision, really. Mm-hmm. And then he started getting ready for the Classic, and I said, Cody, you're just, it's just not even, it somehow came up, it's probably not even a good decision. He said, well, then 212. Let's do 212.
So he changed his mind very quickly.
Well, not only that, but he looked like a bag of bones.
Right, he just wasn't big enough. He wasn't
terrible. Yeah, but just terrible.
Well, but you didn't have an easy time getting him down to that weight class. What happened?
No, not at all. Well, what happens is this: when Kody Montgomery, he like puts his mind to it. So every time he send me pictures, it was weird, because here's a guy who's like OCD, who can put his mental being, all of his energy into bodybuilding, can make astounding progress fairly quickly, not making any progress. So at some point when it clicked, I could feel that it clicked. And when it clicked, like when he really said, when he started training and dieting and giving, not 100%, but like 10,000%, mm-hmm. I told him, I don't know if you're going to make the class. One, because you're growing, and then two, he was trying to get big and trying to get lean quick, trying to get big, trying to get lean quick. And Dave, he will tell you when you have him on the show, ask him, when did I say, okay, you got the green light, you can do the show? Because he wanted to do Toronto, and I kept on saying, you're not going to be ready. You're not going to be ready. And at day 8 days from the show, I said, I finally think I see something here where you can be competitive in that show. And
wow,
he sent it in 8 days out. And then he went, when he got there, of course, his weight was way too high. He was like 222, and he was already like depleted. And I just told him he was in the hotel room for 2 days, and I told him, don't eat anything, really.
when you say don't eat anything, I mean
nothing.
So he was fasting, basically.
Yep. I said, don't eat anything and don't drink much at all. And what you can drink is a little coffee here and there. And his weight just trended down. I'm dead serious. It trended down. It was like 222 3 days out. And that's like in a depleted state.
Now,
And
the transformation wasn't as much as what you did with Regan, but it was. But you had said that this guy was already looked like he could have gotten on stage when he was 10 pounds over, right?
yeah. I mean, he looked round, and then he dropped the weight in 2 days. The morning of the show, he saunted off another, I think, 3.5 pounds.
So did he say he never carved up for this thing?
Oh, and he did. Yeah, he had a day to carb up, and he ate like a maniac.
Oh, okay. Which you can't fill up after that kind of a depletion anyway. Probably in a week he'll look great.
Yeah. He'll
He'll
probably
be
by
like
Tuesday.
ridiculous looking.
Yeah.
He'll probably do an open show in a week from now. Because he'll start growing probably off of that fast. He'll probably have like an anabolic rebound knowing that kid.
But what I can say about Kody, when he gets his mental game on, it is on. Because you can go back to previous radio shows. How many times have I said he's a great trainer?
Yeah, no, you always say.
I mean, I've said it over and over and over. He really knows how to train hard. He really knows how to push his body, and he also knows how to listen to his body, and pull back a little bit when he's like in an overtraining state. So, and he changes fast. So 4 weeks for him. His whole prep was you can ask him, but we called it the 21-day prep because it was really maybe 6 weeks. He got ready for that show in 6 days. Really only pulled it together in 6 weeks.
That's awesome.
So
very impressive. But he doesn't do enough to beat Zane Watson, who arguably a lot of people felt should have won New York Pro over Sean Clarita, who was the hometown guy there. Now Zane's the hometown guy, and he wins the 212. You help both guys, so it doesn't. You're not going to be biased in saying who should have won.
Well, I think some people were saying it was apples and oranges. I would after prejudging, you could say that Cody's back detail, which is really impressive, and his back shots and his width on the back lat spread, if chose a one from the back, could have put him ahead. I think he's going up against, in this case, Zane, who's like a bigger guy. There's more muscle on that frame, I think, than anyone in the class tonight, and he's got, especially at the night show, a level of conditioning that is like really, really impressive. And it doesn't show up in pictures. You know what I mean?
No,
it does, but it doesn't, because he's got a level. His skin is really thin, and that's something that really you don't catch in real life. But after prejudging, I heard it was extremely close, and I had people there at the show who said Chris is close, and some people said Cody's ahead, and some people said Zane is ahead, and I just knew that to some degree, if they judge that routine, then I thought the nod may go to Zane, because I think Zane is for sure, if not the best, one of the best poses in
yeah, he's really
right
good.
now.
You know who he impresses a lot? Sheila Black, who happens to be maybe one of the best female posers in the game, and she was blown away by his routine last year. So
the routine is insane. I mean, he has some wacky ability to connect with the crowd, which no bodybuilders can. They can't. They can wave their arms up over their head and say, like, cheer for me.
Yeah.
And Zane can do it with a look. He can do it with a pose. He can do it with, hand gestures. And he doesn't beg for it. It's almost like he's not even asking for applause, and he can really get a crowd going, and that's his hometown. So
yeah, no, he did a great job at that, and I thought it was very close. And the only place I think Kody really had him good was that glute hamstring. Cody's really good back there. He's got a lot of muscle back in there, and I thought that Zane's back was a little better maybe. He's got some better body parts, but I think if Kody didn't have to suck down that severely, I think we would have seen it. It might have been a different outcome.
I mean, they both sucked down. Now
Zane also that extent.
Yeah, Zane's got nothing to do with the 212 class.
Isn't it funny? We're talking about two guys that probably shouldn't even be in the 212 class, and they dominate here. But that back in the day, Chris, at the Nationals, don't you remember? There would be heavyweight guys that would suck down to light heavyweights so they could win the show.
Absolutely, they would usually Usually the light heavy, which is 198, would come from so-and-so decided that she had to go light heavy, and they'd be like, You know, like an
Absolutely.
Akim or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Someone who's just got nothing to do with the light.
Yeah.
And say, how did you make it?
Yeah.
No,
he'd
he made
dominate.
it.
And then there would be guys that were light heavies that would suck down to middleweight all the time. All the time. They would.
Yeah,
Galante was coming down. From,
yeah, from 280.
yeah.
Listen, and you know where they'd all be? You'd say, like, how'd he suck down? Well, Kemper got him down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there'd always be like at like a New Jersey gym or something. Oh, like he,
Right.
like, you know.
It was like the old wrestling techniques, like just starve, spit a lot into the cup,
That's
that
right.
kind of stuff.
He trained. It'd be like this. He trained with John Kemper in the morning from 5 to 7, and then he came back for the second session from 7 to 9.
Exactly.
You know, and he did like 3 carbs for the last,
Yeah.
you know, 6 weeks, and he made it.
Yeah, no, you're not kidding. That's really what it was. And where does Kody go from here?
I think Kody I think he's going to Dallas.
Oh, he is, okay.
Yeah, you know, he called me. He said he's going to, I think, go to Dallas because he's from Well, he moved to Texas. That's another all-in move he made. At week 5, he would have never made it to
I
the
thought
show.
he was in Texas already. Well, he would he
No,
move
he
out
was
of there?
he was in Florida.
Oh, right. When he's working for...
He's got his mental groove when he's in Texas. So at some point, like 5 weeks out, he threw it all on the line and just like drove his car. I don't know, drove or flew to Texas, and he said, "I'm in Texas, and this is where I'm going to finish the prep."
Is that where he was going to school in Texas, I believe, right?
Yeah, he was going to school there, but he's got a support team for bodybuilding there. This gym owner's name's Roland, and they're really tight, and they, you know, train a little bit together, and his just mental state is completely different in Texas. It's
Right.
I can beat anyone attitude in Texas when he's there. So he's thinking like another show, and or maybe even 2. You know, I don't know how he's going to get his weight down, but
Right. But I guess he wants to go to the Olympia. Is that the deal?
well, I would assume so. I think he was
so.
happy. I think he was just happy getting you know, being back in the mix. You know, being talked about, getting. I think he got like $8,000 for second place. So if that's the truth,
Oh, they gave out some good prize money, huh?
yeah, they gave out pretty good prize money.
Good for him. I think he'll be an open guy next year, back again. Because he's a guy who wants to grow. I just don't see him, you know, staying put in that one class.
Well, it doesn't matter if he don't want to grow; he's going to grow. That's his. You know what I mean. When he's in his A game in terms of training.
Don't you believe if he had trained all year for this, he never would have even been close to making 212?
No way.
It was the fact that he was putzing around, like you said, for most of the prep, that he didn't have the time to put the muscle back on.
Most of the 2 years. I mean, go back and look how small he was when you did the interview with him.
No, I know. He looked like he looked like he was a teenager again.
Yeah. The announcement was like, you know, I'm going to start training with weights again.
Yeah. That's crazy. That just tells you genetically how good this guy is, right?
Yeah, he's very, very, very good genetics.
Where does Zane go? Does he stay in 212?
I think Zane will likely stay in the 212s. I mean, he can make the weight. You know, I know it, quote, restricts his growth, but, you know, I mean, why wouldn't he? He almost won the New York Pro. I mean, look how far he's come. He's almost won the New York Pro.
Right.
He had that breakout last year at the Arnold. Think how strategic it was, too. He was, what was he, 4th at the Arnold last year when nobody thought he was 4th or 5th? He was 5th at the
was good.
last
He
year.
was really good at that show.
He was really good, and he decided, I'm going to take, where he could have gone into other shows. He said, I'm going to take time off to improve my upper body, which he did. And the New York Pro was never on his radar screen. It just happened that I was going. And I said,
Oh,
you know,
right.
why don't you go? Because I'm going to
Is
be
that
there.
really how it came out of that?
Yeah. I said, why don't you go? Because I'm going to be there. And he said, no, I got my mind on Toronto. And I said, no, go to New York. I'll be there. And I said, you got a good chance of win. And when he didn't win, it was kind of like, maybe not the best advice. But the whole game plan from the Arnold, where he was 5th, was to take all that time off, get ready for the Toronto, try to win the Toronto in his hometown. So he's very strategic about it. And I think he wants to be on the Olympia stage, you know, and see how he fares. I think he's fared, you know, pretty damn well. I think people are going to underestimate him. If there's an early weigh-in, it's only good news for him. You know, if it's a late weigh-in.
Absolutely. Then he could fill up a little bit, for certain. How will he do against these guys on stage? I mean, because the old guard is kind of, I mean, aside from Flex Lewis, who's still pretty dominant, the old guard is really falling down, don't you think?
Well, I think he can surprise. I think he has the ability to come in, as good condition as anyone in the show, and he's not small. I mean, if you really look at the pictures, he's got a killer side chest. He's got a killer side tricep. He's got a killer most muscular. He's very broad and opens up on the front double, and he's broad and opens up on the front lat spread.
Right.
And he's got a crazy abs and thigh with the one arm, one arm over the head, one arm by its side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's proved that he can come into condition with lights out condition every show as well.
Was Mahmoud Al-Dara, who comes in third here, was he close to these guys in your estimation?
Yeah, I thought he looked absolutely tremendous. Yeah, I thought he looked absolutely tremendous. He was tremendous condition, tremendous fullness, tremendous back, tremendous pecs. Very deserving third place guy, and I wouldn't have been surprised if they had called 3 at the end. You know what I mean? To get a look at all 3 of them together.
Right. I think that he's an underrated guy for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. He'll be on the Olympia stage this year. I'm sure he'll qualify somehow.
I think I agree. I 100% agree with you.
I mean, he's there on points already, probably. In terms of, he was, 4th in New York and 3rd here. So.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of shows, though. I don't know. I guess I have to look at the point standings. I don't know if they updated those on NPC News Online yet. But I think he's going to keep going. I would keep going if I were him. There's a few more 212s. Why not hit a couple? Get the win, man. I guarantee you, well, if Cody's going, like you said, Cody's going to go try to get that win. I guess that's going to be a tough guy to beat. Now, do you think, because of what Cody's having to do to make the weight, is it reproducible in your mind?
We're going to find out.
Because I noticed that Regan dropped out of. He was supposed to do Toronto, right?
He was supposed to do Toronto. You know what? I told him he should give the Open a shot a couple days ago when he got back from vacation. He was so blasted full. He was so full as a house.
How would he have done in this lineup?
In the Open?
Mm-hmm.
I think damn well.
I think it would have been top 3.
He'd be top 5.
Yeah. Would have been exciting if he would have done it. I think.
I'm dead serious. He sent me pictures and I said, "Wow, you should have done." It was like the morning of the Toronto. He said, "You know what? Had I known I'd still look this good 2 days ago, I would have got back from my vacation. I would have done the Open."
Isn't it crazy, guys? You can't go on vacation. Come on, this is your thing.
Well, he hasn't been on vacation for 2 years.
Can't you wait till after the Olympia to go on vacation?
Well, he wanted to go on vacation and then just get ready for the Olympia.
Oh my God, these guys got to go on vacation. I can't believe it. How many weeks is it to the Olympia?
I don't know, 15. God forbid.
Can you believe it? We're already counting down.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how fast time is going. I time everything by my reptiles. But now because the breeding season's over the winter, and then they start laying eggs, and eggs are starting to hatch already, which is 60 days after they've been laid. So I'm like, holy mackerel! I can't believe we're in June already.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But
I
was impressed with Zane. I was impressed with Cody. I was impressed with El-Dara. I think the 212 was very competitive,
Yeah.
I liked it. I like these guys. I think that they're tremendous. I think that, when did we ever see local, I call it local, regional type shows like this, pro shows, for, showing talent that was this good?
Yeah, not in a long time. I mean, this is the best. You hit the nail on the head when you said that Toronto has been the minor leagues of the New York Pro. Typically, right? People who.
Yeah, but I think this lineup is better than the New York Pro, maybe.
Yeah, well, I was wrong. Because you're right. I said no.
I would love to see Cody in that New York Pro lineup. Would he?
The 212, you mean, or the
212?
Well, the 212. He just went against Zane, who was,
Yeah, but I think that it might have been a different outcome.
Well, there's always a chance for a different outcome because, Zane versus Clarita, which is total quote apples and oranges.
Right.
Then you throw in Cody. It's, you're going to suck away a first place vote from someone.
Absolutely. I would have been. I think the judges would have been hard pressed to judge that. That would have been a really difficult, lineup there to judge.
Yeah. No, that's what happens when you well, that's what happens a lot of times when you compare three, right? When you compare two people, although like in this lineup, they compared, let's say, Juan and Akim, but when you start to compare like three people, inevitably the third guy, if he's really good, can suck away one first place vote from someone else, and it causes a completely different outcome.
Exactly. People don't realize that, but it changes the dynamics of what you're judging.
As Kai Green would say, cause and effect. Cause and effect.
Oh my God.
So has Oscar found the new Kai?
I don't know. I'll tell you this though. Akim needs him. Akim's a very well-adjusted, well-balanced, really good-hearted guy. I mean, it doesn't get much better than Akim, But sometimes that's not good for bodybuilding. Sometimes you got to have a little bit more, killer instinct, a little more focus, a little more not being afraid to show off what you got, And I think Oscar's good because Oscar keeps you mentally very focused on the goal. And Akim, everything comes so easy for Akim, and I'm not saying Akim's not a hard worker, because he is, but things come very easy for him. And sometimes when things come easy for you, it's hard to push yourself. Because you're in the gym, you're lifting more weight than everyone else. You're the biggest guy in the gym. Who's pushing you? Why do you need to be pushed? Who can push you at that point? Who could push Akim in the gym? No one. No one can lift anything close to the guy.
You know what the actual answer is, Dave?
What?
In bodybuilding, coaches are good, Oscar's good, I'm good, you're good, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of good coaches. If you can't push yourself at the end of the day, you're not cut out for this sport. I don't believe in it's nice to have a training partner to drive you or whatever, but if you can't find the grit to do it yourself, then you're not cut out for bodybuilding.
I agree.
I tell people all the time. They said, what do you do with training, Chris? I said, I don't know the difference between a bench press and a squat. So the point is, and I exaggerate, but the point is, you got to be doing the training. You know what I mean? And you got to be doing it hard because I'm useless without you doing all the work.
Sure.
And to be able to do all the work, you have to actually dig deep and do the work. And there's a difference between digging deep and digging ridiculously deep. Those ridiculously deep and really deep are just billions of miles away. And, you have to dig ridiculously deep to put something special on stage.
Absolutely. On another note, I want to just, one of my friends who owns Explosive Ape clothing line is holding a bodybuilding show in England. It's called the South of England Classic on September 16, 2018 at the Grove Theatre in Dunstable, England. And they're giving away some prize money. So I want to give him a little plug because he's sending us some free Iron Rage t-shirts. From Explosive Ape clothing line. So they're pretty cool. I'll have to send you one. Even though you never did the Iron Rage show with us, but I'm going to send you one anyway, just because it's cool.
I do when I'm raging about the right thing.
Sure.
No, I do debate.
I got to get you on, so you have to officially do one show with us, and this way I can get you. Actually, you've done a couple with us, I think, in the beginning.
No, I'm too old to rage, but I'll debate.
you like to rage. You rage off the phone all the time.
Well, what happens is I rage so much in real life that when it comes to bodybuilding topic, I just all raged out.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a friend who's actually the girl who used to groom my dogs. Her ex-boyfriend is a psychic, believe it or not. He lives on Long Island. His name is Christopher Allen, and he's one of these upcoming young psychics. I don't know if you ever watched the Long Island.
Long Island psychic. Yeah.
Yeah. What's her name? The Long Island medium, Teresa, whatever her name is, Caputo. Yeah. And she knows, she's friends with him. They kind of they're in the same psychic club, so to speak. And he's good, he's good. And so I once had him on our TV show, and he did a little reading, and he got he was pretty accurate. So we decided that I hired him. We did Skype. I didn't do one. Amanda and her mom did a psychic reading with him. And one of the interesting things about and I'm a big believer in this is these psychics who are able to communicate with the spirit, and you don't have to believe it if you don't want to, but if you get a reading, you'll believe it because they say stuff and they're able to tell you stuff that there's no way anyone in the world would know, except your relatives, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you begin to realize that death is really not the end of anything. And one of the things that he says is the spirit tells him is that we kind of plan the life we choose to live before we get here. It's kind of like a movie script. Dorian said it pretty well too when I was interviewing Dorian Yates. We're living in the highest virtual reality movie you could possibly get. That's what life is, and that's why you have to enjoy yourself and you have to live life to its fullest. And it's a really exciting movie, is what it is, and that's why you should try to do what you like in life, and do things that give you enjoyment. So when things are down, and I know I work with a lot of athletes, so do you, and you get these guys, they're so depressed, they're so nuts, about these shows and depressed about their placings and this didn't go right and that didn't go right. Just sit back and take a deep breath, guys, and remember you're in a movie. Enjoy the movie. When you watch TV and you watch a movie, things go wrong in the movie, and it can bother you because you really like the characters and stuff like that. But it doesn't you're not ready to jump off a bridge because of it, because it's just a movie, and that's what life is. And you can change the movie according to your thoughts and how you think. And just because you have a bad day doesn't mean that tomorrow's going to be a bad day. And I'm sure that a lot of bodybuilders think that every time something bad happens, that's it. I'm done bodybuilding. Can never do this again. I didn't win the show. You have to learn to lose because it's part of the movie. When you go to a movie, it's not all good stuff that happens. There's always something terrible that happens to the main character, right? To give it a little dramatic flair, so to speak. If you were going to write your own script for your own life, you wouldn't want it to be boring, would you?
No. Well, listen, all the lessons, like I've said, come from the losses.
Yeah, you're right. That's 100%.
I'm sure you can get Antoine Valier. Is it Valier?
Yeah.
You can get him on, and he can tell you all the disasters that he's had in his life and all the lessons that he's learned.
And he did. And he did. It was pretty crazy.
So, hats off to he's one of the winners of tonight. Actually,
I 100% agree with that statement.
Like an unbelievable good comeback story. People say come back. Oh, he had a comeback. What happened? Well, he's 15th at the Nationals and now he's third. Or he's 15th at his first pro show and now he's first. Well,
right.
How about threw a career out the window and then recaptured it?
Right, because a lot of people won't or never do.
Yeah,
they can't. They just don't have it in them because they don't want to. It's too painful. This guy, I'm sure people wrote him off. He could have been a statistic. He could have been dumb, but it wasn't.
I wrote him off. I wrote him off when I saw him in Brazil. I said, this guy's like toast.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily for him, he was still young. And I think his youth saved him in a sense because imagine if he was like 30 and started doing drugs. That would have been the end of his career. But he obviously is still a young guy. He's rededicated himself to a sport. Sometimes when you're that talented, Chris, you take for granted that talent, and you know what? You piss it out the window.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's always the guys that have to work the hardest that try the hardest. I always say that I wasn't genetically gifted in the sense of being a structurally great bodybuilder. I created a physique based on hard work and science and everything I put into it. I didn't get anything given to me. Maybe my conditioning, my ability to get lean was a slight gift above other people, but I worked really hard. I wasn't like a Ronnie Coleman or a Flex Wheeler or a Kevin Levrone, and I'm sure and you would probably classify yourself as the same in the same category. I mean, nothing came easy for you in bodybuilding. You had trouble gaining weight, and you maximized your physique because of how hard you worked and how analytical you were with what you did. But some of these guys that it comes easy to, they coast because it comes too easy for them, and a lot of times they piss it away because of that.
Yeah, well, that's why in the bodybuilding world, it's odd who rises to the top. I mean, how many people have you seen with just the best flow, genetics, this and that, and the surprise is, you're getting blown off the stage by Josh Wade.
Yeah, exactly. That's another guy. He fits that category too. The ultra hard worker,
Ultra hard worker.
Branch Warren. Let's put. Oh, by the way, not to mention Branch Warren. You know how we always saying Branch Warren doesn't for some reason doesn't like us. This one come on the show. Branch actually called me the other day, And he said, "Hey, I'm ready. Let's do this interview." And I said, "Okay, great." So Branch Warren will be on the show next week. That's pretty exciting. He's got a lot to talk about. He's just launching a new beef jerky company, believe it or not. And he said it was weird because someone had approached him and asked him if he wanted to do it, and I think it was Scott James, and he said, I thought about it. I'm like, what the hell I want to do branch, and then cheap beef jerky, and then he said, wait a second, I hunt, I do everything. That's perfect, right up my alley. And I said, exactly, man. That's if I had to guess, if someone said to me, who do you think has a beef jerky company in the bodybuilding world, I would have said Branch Warren, of course.
Yeah. Well, we can put together a little skit for him to go on Shark Tank and see if he can pitch sharks.
Yeah,
we can put George on there with him. We can George.
I would
ask him on the show. Say Chris wants to have you and George go on and pitch Mr. Wonderful on beef jerky.
I've seen people go on there and pitch them for beef jerky, and I think they actually invested in the beef jerky company.
You know what? I know they would invest if George could convince them for sure.
No, they would.
Brother, I thought it's the best. The taste, and it's a high protein, and all my ethnic cheeses.
You know who would hate him? Mark Cuban would hate George. He hates the people who read the party line. That give him. He hates anyone who comes on and says, and there's 4 billion people who buy nutritional supplements. He's like, stop. He always stops people. He's like, I don't want to hear it. Don't give me statistics of how many people buy. How many people buy your product? That's what they want to know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but so Branch will be on next week. That's exciting. Who else told me they would come on the show? I have someone else scheduled. I can't remember who it is.
Is Branch retired or not retired?
Yeah, he's retired. He's got tons of doing all these shows all over the place now. He's becoming the promoter extraordinaire. He'll make more money promoting shows than he ever did. Of course he will. Of course. And he made a lot of money in his time because he always had good contracts with people, and he always had Blackman on his ass, giving him money over there in MD. So Branch did very well for himself, and I know him. He saved probably most of his money, and now he's doing well as a promoter. And he's got the work ethic. To getting back to what the point was, his work ethic is so good that he's now applied that work ethic towards being a promoter. So he'll be a great promoter because no one will outwork him, right?
Listen, I tell people all that my whole foundation for everything that I do was bodybuilding. I always thought, I knew when I was bodybuilding, this is way harder than. That's why I had a disappeal for bodybuilding. In other words, I'd train and I'd say, there's everything is easy compared to this. Right. Compared to a bodybuilding show, whether you're doing the Atlantic States or the Olympia, where you really, if you want to go back to doing it the right way, digging crazy deep, which is miles and miles from training super hard and digging deep, just plain deep, that commitment and that energy drain and that time drain and that commitment drain is like 10 times what it takes to do a business. To do a business.
Absolutely.
It really is.
It's just physical.
And it's physical.
It's just physical.
Bodybuilding is physical, mental business. All you have to do is sit in a chair and think it through.
Right. That's why you and I could work for the 18 hours a day, because it's like, well, compared to bodybuilding, it's like, this is nothing.
About it. No carbs or whatever. You know what I mean?
No, you don't have to eat. You eat a cup. You could open a bag of potato chips if you want to. There's no eating. There's no training necessary. It's just a matter of sitting at the computer. The hardest part for me is that my freaking hips and thighs get all bound up. I feel like I get up like a 90-year-old man because I've been sitting at the computer so long. At like 3 a.m, I'm like stretching. I'm like doing if people saw me on if there was a video camera in my house, you would probably laugh your ass off.
Listen, I'm dead serious. You can call or text my wife and ask her how many times a day I complain about my hips, and that's because I sit at a desk all day. I've been looking at these. I've been looking at these. I've been looking at these stand-up desks. Yeah. Lately.
Oh, the stand-up. That's what my wife wants, because she walks around with Aria, in the little carrier that's in the front of her. What is it called? The
carrier.
Yeah, it's like a baby carrier. Like the baby sits in front of her, right against her boobs. And so it's easier if she can't really sit down as comfortably. So if she can stand and type, she would be way more productive. So, oh my God. See what happens when you get older, Chris? Like you start all these things. My thought, I got to tell. Well, I'll end the show with my dad. So I get a call from, I hate when they call me from the assisted living place because I always know that something's wrong with my dad. My dad had fallen twice like the last couple of weeks. They just found him basically sitting on the floor by his bed. So I don't know, he probably missed the bed or something like that. He didn't hurt himself. But I get the call, and I think it was Friday or Thursday, and they said, your dad's going to the hospital. I'm like, what happened? Well, we found him in the bathroom in a pool of blood. I'm like, what happened? Well, he hit his eye, his hand's hurting. Turns out if you saw, I got to send you a picture of his eye. He must have hit his head, his side of his head on the sink, and when he fell, then he put I don't think he put his hand down, but he broke his pinky and his ring finger, and I don't know how he didn't hurt himself worse. He really didn't, but they sent him home the same day. I had to pick him up and put him in my car, and I said, Dad, what'd you get? I got into the hospital. It seriously looked like he got into the biggest fight. He had a huge black eye. He couldn't even open his eye. He looked like Rocky from the first movie. I said, who'd you beat up? Or who beat you up? He's like, what are you talking about? So I took a picture of him. I showed it to him. He's like, who the fuck's that? I said, Dad, that's you.
Oh, that's funny, man.
He's like, what the hell happened to me? I said, he doesn't even remember, I said, you fell. He's like, I did? I said, yeah, you did. And he's like, is that what this thing is doing on my hand? I said, yeah, that's called a cast or a splint. They put like a soft cast on his hand. I'm like, don't take it off. So we go visit him today at his place. He looks a lot better. The swelling's going down around his eye. Oh, he wouldn't let them stitch his eye either. So they glue, the new thing is they glue it back together. Did you know that? They can glue his skin. Yeah. Which they said is probably better because he doesn't have to go back and get stitches out. My dad's a good healer though. He's already almost healed up in like a couple days later. So he's got the splint on his hand. His whole arm is wrapped up, and I go and I'm like running. My son goes running around this place. He loves these. They have fans all over. He likes to go explore. So I'm running around, and Amanda's with the baby, and my father says to her, he goes, I want to hold the baby. Now my dad has never said anything like this before. She's like, you sure, Sal? You have a broken hand. He's like, no, just put her in my arms. And out of nowhere, he was holding the baby, like the most nurturing human being you've ever seen. My wife said, "Isn't that crazy?"
Well, he's still got it. He would say,
bending his fingers and everything. I said, "There's nothing." I said, "We probably forgot. He probably forgot he broke his hand." I said,
"Yeah, of course he did, right?" It's nice to be able to forget pain.
He's ordering everyone around. Matter of fact, when I went to the hospital, Chris, not to interrupt you, there was someone in there scolding him because he was ordering everyone around there. He's like, Mr. Palumbo, you can't be yelling at people. He's like, why not? Why can't I? I need this or I need that or whatever he needed. There's multiple people here in the emergency room. You're not the only patient here. I said, you're wasting your breath. I told the guy. He's like, what do you mean? I said, because number one, he's not going to remember in 30 seconds. I said, he's going to do it again. I said, number two, I said, he doesn't agree with you. I said, I'm sorry, you got my dad here. We'll get him out of here as quick as possible. I mean, the guy, how could the guy not realize my dad's basically memory span is about 30 seconds,
Yeah. Well,
maybe
not
20
even.
seconds. Yeah, not even. Yeah.
Not even.
And he's trying to rationally talk to my father about, what the rules are there.
Don't worry.
Like,
you can talk to him about things like when he was 18. He'll remember probably. But I mean, things happened 30 seconds ago. I mean, I see it all the time with my father.
Yeah. It's amazing.
The way it is.
He actually almost remembered his age today when Amanda said, "How old do you think you are?" What did he say? 87?
88.
88. He said. No, he didn't say.
No, he said 87.
He was a year off, which wasn't too bad for him. And he knew his date of birth, right?
No, he knew his address.
Oh, he knew his old address because Amanda was showing him pictures from his house that we sold. I told you they redid the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, do you recognize this house?
He's like, no.
He's like, no, never seen it before in my life. But he knew the address.
That's great. I'm surprised he can't remember the house.
No. Well, the house is complete. They redid the whole
It's
thing.
livable. It's not.
He's like, this is livable. He goes, I don't know if I want to necessarily be there, but it's livable. Meanwhile, it looks like it's like $1 million house now. Compared to what he was living in, like shambles. You saw it. Rubber bands were holding the cabinets together.
Crazy.
Yeah. And he thought it was fine. He's like, it's fine. It doesn't need anything. Yeah. Unbelievable. it's funny. Just I'll leave you with this because I know because I mentioned the psychic reading that Amanda got. I know people are going to say, "Oh, so was it? How did it work out? Was it real? Was the guy good? He was good, yeah." You know how Amanda got that? She had the surgery on her face because she had some skin cancer.
Yes.
And it was
So nice. What a story you're telling.
Well, no, because I think it's a great story. She's yelling in the background. It's a great story because it's a validating story. She was very self-conscious about they had to cut out a piece of her, right above her lip and everything like that. And she was worried it was going to scar forever. And so her sister, who was deceased, who had been murdered, she said, made like a joke about it and almost like, oh yeah, my sister, she's like making a big deal about something silly like that. But isn't that the truth? I mean, only she would have known that, right? I mean, this kid didn't know anything about Amanda having surgery on her face. You can't even tell because there's no scar there anymore. But it's so funny, right? We the things in the material world here that we think are so, mind-numbingly terrible are really a joke when you think about it, right? I mean, long after the fact. I mean,
It's a very big scar on my face.
Well, they're just distractions.
yeah, it really is. But
Everything
it
is
puts it in
distraction.
perspective, about when you start getting upset about things that are going wrong in your life, and you're like, wait a second, is this really that bad? There are people that are dropping dead. There are people that have chronic terminal diseases. There are people that had terrible accidents, and so.
Well, you can do it this way. You can be on my line when someone calls me and says, "We got a horrible problem over here with this apartment. You're not going to believe it." They're so reactionary, and I just shut them up. I said, "Anyone dead? No. Fire? No.
Right.
Floods? No. Okay, nothing. I don't even need to know about it."
You reminded me of a story. I'll mention that Susie Blaylock, our good friend, the anesthesiologist, told me she was doing some kind of a surgery. She was anesthetizing someone during surgery, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the surgery, they see bed bugs on the person.
Oh my goodness!
Obviously, it wasn't from the hospital; it came from the person. So they had to stop the surgery, and they had to get a special exterminator in there that specializes in bed bugs because they don't need the thing spreading to the hospital, right? And
Yeah.
They all had to have all their clothes taken off and incinerated, basically.
Isn't it insane? It's absolutely.
It's like a plague. It's like a modern day plague. These bed bugs.
No, I'm telling you, it's absolutely insane. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And trying to get rid of them.
I know. Believe me.
I've had tremendous success. Not me, the exterminator.
Yeah.
But with the exception of that one guy who we play on the radio.
Yeah, who thinks he's got bed bugs but really doesn't.
Yeah. But I go to movies sometimes and I'm like, do I really want to sit in that seat? I'll inspect the seat.
Yeah.
Well, you saw in Manhattan when they had when bed bugs were really crazy 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was scary.
They had to close a brand new movie theater they had opened up,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to close it down. And what they did is they threw out every seat and replaced it brand new.
Yeah, they burn everything. That's the only way to kill these freaking things.
Yeah, it's heat.
Whoever comes up with a good bed bug destroyer, something that's reliably usable and is convenient, I think will make millions.
You know what, Dave? We can take me, my tenant who comes on the radio show sometimes,
Right.
and you, and we can pitch it on Shark Tank instead of the beef jerky.
Actually, there was someone who actually
pull
pitched.
George in there just in case.
There was someone who pitched something. Remember, my wife and I were watching about. It was like a bed bug detector. Like you could detect if they're in the room. Like you bring them with it. It's like a little thing you open up and you put it out. And I don't remember how it worked, but you can determine before you actually stay in a hotel room or something like that if there's bed bugs there.
Oh gosh.
That was a great. I thought they all invested in that. That's a great invention.
Well, they have little dogs. They train dogs to sniff them out.
Sniff from that, yeah.
You know?
All right, well, enough about bed bugs and Akim Williams and Antoine Bellier. Hopefully you guys have been inspired by today's show and by the outcome at the Toronto Pro and all the little stories and anecdotes that Chris and I shared with you on this Saturday at 1 a.m. Time slot show that we've kind of put together for you. But for now, we're out of time until next week. Remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
The truth hurts.
911 now!